Thank you for joining us in another devotional from Myerstown Baptist Church. We're continuing our study on the words of Jesus on the subject of prayer. And it's interesting in the Gospels how many times and how many things he has to say about prayer. Today we're going to look at Luke chapter 18, verses 1 through 8. And this is the parable about the widow before the unjust judge. So I'd like to just read these verses and then just make a few brief comments. As we speak a parable unto them to this end, that men ought always to pray and not to faint, saying, there was in a certain city a judge which feared not God, neither regarded man. And there was a widow in that city, and she came unto him, saying, avenge me of mine adversary. And he would not for a while, but afterward he said within himself, though I fear not God, nor regard man, yet because this widow troubleth me, I will avenge her, lest by her continual coming she weary me. And the Lord said, hear what the unjust judge saith, and shall not God avenge his own elect, which cry day and night unto him, though he bear long with them? I tell you that he will avenge them speedily. Nevertheless, when the Son of Man cometh, shall he find faith on the earth? So here again, we see Jesus has some things to say about the subject of prayer. He tells a parable. A parable is basically telling a story that reveals or teaches spiritual truth. That was not uncommon to the culture of the times. That's how people related to one another in Bible times, by telling stories. And it certainly wasn't uncommon for Jesus. In all the Gospels, we see Jesus telling parables. And here Jesus reveals some spiritual truth on the subject of prayer through the form of a parable. In verse 1, we see the priority of prayer. Jesus said that men ought always to pray. Now, we're not just encouraged in the Gospels to pray, but all through Scripture, we are encouraged to pray. Two of my favorite verses from the prophet Jeremiah 33:3 says, call unto me, and I will answer thee, and show thee great and mighty things which thou knowest not. That is a huge encouragement for you and I to pray. And then Paul talks again about the priority of prayer. He says that we should pray without ceasing, 1 Thessalonians 5 and verse 17. So as we look at this parable, the first thing Jesus mentions is how we should prioritize prayer, make it a priority in our life. And then if you look at verses 4 and 5, we see the persistence of prayer. This widow was very, very persistent in coming before the unjust judge. And the judge uses the word troubleth. If I can use my own words, this lady is driving me crazy by her continual coming. And then he uses the phrase, weary me. So she is wearing out this unjust judge with her constant requests. All too often we cut God short and stop praying. We stop asking, we stop seeking, we stop knocking, and we just give up and don't pray because the answer is not right before us. So here this widow provides a good example to us that we should be persistent in our prayer life. And then in verses 7 and 8, we see the provision of prayer. God will surely provide answers to our prayers. Matter of fact, in verse 8, it says that he will avenge her of her adversary speedily. In some commentaries, they use the word swiftly. God will surely answer your prayer. He'll surely answer my prayer. But we have to remember that God answers prayer on his terms and on his timetables. So what's the life lesson here as we look at these few verses on prayer? We see the priority of prayer. That's our responsibility. We should make prayer a definite priority in our life. One of the main priorities that we all keep is we all eat every day. We don't forget that. We prioritize that. It's very important to us. Prayer should be a priority in your life and mine. And then the persistence of prayer, that's also our responsibility. We should continue to pray. As Paul says, pray without ceasing. We need to continue to ask, continue to seek, and continue to knock. The provision of prayer is God's responsibility. He will honor your prayer. He will honor my prayer. He hears and answers prayer. So my encouragement to you today is to keep asking, keep seeking, and keep knocking. God bless you and have a great day.